Tornado Cash is basically this crypto project on Ethereum where you can dump money inside. It washes your money, launders your money through so many different transactions in the particular type of way that you can't trace back the money afterwards to the source. So it washes it. You get it afterwards, but there's this period inside where it's obfuscated, which is super useful in the crypto space because crypto is the opposite of privacy. Everything can be tracked. And so here you would track it into this net of all these different addresses, and then to find out where the money actually went after would be difficult.
How does this compare to Midnight from Cardano?
I'm glad you brought that up because that's what we're talking about later on. But the first part is that Tornado Cash was taken down, right, by I believe the Biden administration, because there was like money. It was connected to all these like nefarious activities, and then they were taken down. But then it was challenged in court, and then in basically this year, the beginning of this year, it was determined by the courts that it's not lawful to sanction the platform because they're just a smart contracts platform. They're not themselves doing any illegal activity, and so they removed the sanctions. And they might go after it some other way, but as of right now, Tornado Cash is lawful again, or not lawful, which is strange. You know, you're like, okay, so money laundering is back. Like, I like it. I think in the sense that it's back to what crypto was supposed to be to begin with, but why is the government allowing this to happen? So are they should come through another way and stop it? Who knows? But it made me think a lot about Midnight, right? That Midnight is a token that's going to be created on Cardano by Charles Hoskinson and his team on the Cardano blockchain. And the idea here is to bring privacy to crypto, right? And so the Midnight token will allow you to have private transactions, but the privacy it's talking about, it's like regulatory approved privacy in the way that you have privacy at a company because the database is private.
Why is privacy with crypto? Why does that matter?
Well, to the blockchain is not just there, ostensibly not just there for currency transactions, which in and of itself you want it to be private. You don't want to be able to you do a transaction with somebody, they know what your wallet address is, and now they can see everything you've ever purchased ever. People don't necessarily want that. But even aside from that, if you want to build a business, right? You need some level of privacy. Your the user information private, the proprietary information private from the company, the accounting private, employee records private. So if you want to take advantage of the blockchain, but you don't want everyone to be able to see it. So it's like, oh, well, what do you do? How do you have the information secured in such a way that is accessible by the blockchain without it being completely visible to everyone? So Midnight's supposed to solve that problem, or at least go a long way to solving that problem, so that you can have what's called selective disclosure of information of a transaction. So the transaction could still go through and actually be validated by the chain, by the validators on the chain, but without them knowing the private information. And the way that it's regulatory prepared for the regulator, so it doesn't fall in the same trap as Tornado Cash, is that the KYC information, anti-money money laundering information, information that the government would want to have would still be accessible and retrievable and deliverable to the government. So you get the power of blockchain without like all the lasciviousness, the shadiness. But I was looking into it. And I was like, well, couldn't someone? I was wondering, and this is I want to put a call out because I don't know for sure. If anyone in the Cardano community knows this, will you be unable to do a completely private transaction using Midnight? Like, is it a la base in the system baked in? Are these regulatory constraints, or is it that the entity who's using the platform they can decide to follow the regulatory constraints, and anyone who doesn't, well, then they can become a target for prosecution. Now, I don't know which side of the fence I want. Do I want a cryptocurrency that has a chance of really surviving and becoming a base layer for all kinds of new technology in the future because immutably within its code is transparency to the government in order to be able to track down uh, uh, individuals or companies, entities using the platform, or do I want it the other way where it's like the phone, right? You can commit all the crimes you want using the phone. No one's going to the phone companies going, "Hey," the cell phone companies, yes, but not the landline phones or pay phones. And for anyone who still uses that, you can make a phone call, and unless it's tapped by the government, they're not going to know what you're saying. I'm not sure what I want. Well, I know
Well,
what I want.
you need to be able to. I mean, not you, but don't people want to have the ability to pay people under the table, sort of?
Well, that's the argument for physical cash. There is no track in physical cash, even though it's a serial number on it. You can the physical cash can be traded multiple times before it even touches any regulatory agency. Um, and so, for any currency in the digital space, for it to actually be considered currency, you should be able to have that sort of effort, that sort of ability. Now, Monero XMR, I believe it is the token code, was this cryptocurrency blockchain based on privacy, and they, I believe, were shunned like from everywhere.
Hmm.
Like, you couldn't they weren't traded on platforms. In fact, the only place I could get Monero back in the day was, on these privacy exchanges, forums or whatever, these tools, and you'd contact somebody and they'd send you, you know, they'd send you some crypto or PayPal or something like that, and then they would send you Monero, like, it was this weird thing. But then you could also do that just straight with cryptocurrency. Like, you could just send somebody $500 in the mail, and then they'll send you $500 worth of Bitcoin at whatever agreed price, and you just move forward that way. Then there's no connection in that way. Anyways, I don't know all the details of how it works, but what I do want is for privacy to be available within the blockchain, at least perceived privacy, so that we can actually get this, the government transactions listed on the blockchain. We can get corporate entities on the blockchain. We can get the advantages of being able to cross-platform, be able to cross between systems, have a faster, more reliable rendering, and if like settlement, and then um, if there's a lawsuit or for some reason information needs to be surfaced, well, we have an immutable source of this information, and that's just not it's not just like whatever some entity or court or whatever decides they wanted to provide to us.
Well, look, I'll tell you, considering what's been uncovered with Elon and Doge and USAID and ID and all these things, and they're
Get
finding
those
more.
keywords in, buddy.
Look, um, how, I can't see how the government will allow itself to be on the blockchain.
Well, it would happen incrementally, right? So you can imagine I could totally imagine voting happening in this way. Absolutely. I mean, it's super useful to have voting happen this way. So it starts, let's say, in certain municipalities who have the authority to set up their own voting mechanisms, and they decide to do this. It runs really well, and it starts bleeding into other places. I could see people doing that.
Yeah, but
Now, with
how is that
something
going
like
to be?
midnight, you'd be able to tell that this vote came from you without it being your vote being uncovered.
I don't think the population is going to be like, oh yeah, they're going to go paper ballots. How does the blockchain beat paper ballots? You can explain the blockchain to people and be like, oh, you can go and check the hash to see. Like, people are not going to want that for voting. That's the last thing
Well,
that's going to change.
Well, that's why it matters to have it on a blockchain that's robust like Cardano, where applications can be developed where you don't need to know the details and hash rates and rigmarole. There's a system that's can validate it, but also, um, I don't think it happens everywhere. I think some municipalities, in order to differentiate themselves, decide to do something like this in the same way that they might use different type of asphalt somewhere else in order to have better roads. They might All it takes is some locations to try it, or it doesn't even have to be municipalities. It could be um, uh, a company that decides, hey, we will make more profit if we can guarantee the origination for these different things, or some art gallery says we want to be able to track it on a blockchain or whatever, some use case where they don't mind that they actually gain some clout by being a first mover, early adopter in the space, and all of a sudden you have these use cases that then believe in place to place to place to place. Does it
Have
take
you
20
heard?
years? Maybe.
Have you heard of the scam? I don't know the full details of the scam, and I wish I could remember what it's called. But something with your house's title deed or something,
Right.
where people can pull it and then sell your house, like, without you knowing or something like that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I've heard of rash of these online.
It'd be good to
I
have
thought that
that
was only for
for the
people
blockchain.
who didn't pay their taxes, but I'm not sure.
I don't know, just something about the deed that can be pulled and changed or something. Um, it'd be good for purchases like that to kind of prove who owns the house.
Insane.
That could be cool. There's a lot of fraud that happens where your identity, knowing who you are, and then when it comes to AI, we're going to need something to out and out prove who you are and that you're dealing with the right person. So
Exactly.
I can see the value in that. So I don't know if you said this already, but you were saying that you kind of like, would you want a crypto that couldn't be tracked or something like that? Like, are you for it or against it?
I like the things that giving up privacy provides one. It gives us a lot of stuff. It gives us Google, gives
Google
us
Maps.
AI, it gives us this power in giving yourself over wholly to the herd. But the altar of non-privacy is revivified by the blood of certain victims again and again and again. Some the edges of the herd needs to be culled in order to make the herd stronger, and so you have these things where you know news comes out and privacy is breached or eroded, and all of a sudden people get in trouble because things they thought were private are no longer private. Um, I like that as long as it's not me. But then if I want to live in a world where we move forward in leaps and bounds and privacy holds us back as I get older, and as you get older, the time you'd have to spend in jail becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. You sort of go, hey, maybe I want more progress sooner, faster.
I feel like young people are the ones who are extremely willing to give up all sense of privacy.
Well, they never had privacy.
Yeah,
I mean, the privacy we grew up in is a luxury compared to what these people have.
yeah, we grew up in like literally the dark ages, like dark meaning you couldn't find or see anybody.
That's right.
Uh,
I can't look back and see what I did, much less anybody else. I'd
you
be
used
happy for someone to uncover any of that stuff.
you used to
Um,
not know where people were like at all.
at all.
Like you had no idea where they are. They could be 2 blocks down the street. You'd have no clue.
No clue.
Like you could have a family and you could be a husband who walks out on your family, move 6 blocks away, start a whole new family, and nobody would even know.
Yeah, eyebrows are 80% of the face. You change that a little bit, change your hair color, they'll walk
80%.
right past you.
I think that's a little, you know.
No, 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 it's science, Peter.
Right, right. And then
No,
now you
no, advanced like magicians and costume designers and whatever, and special effects people, they know this. You've changed their eyebrows, you change 80% of the person's face.
no.
Yep, absolutely. Peter?
Oh,
Is
no, Peter.
is that you?
I'm not Peter. I'm a Muslim living in London, all right? Um, yeah, well, look,
Fantastic.
you have these TikTokers, like, I can't believe people just basically dump their whole life story, everything about them, all their history on TikTok. It's like, these people don't care about privacy one hoot.
I saw this one woman, she just got in an argument or recently it was an argument with her fiance. She's standing, I think, in an elevator or whatever, filming, click film, crying or half crying as she's filming this thing. So you're like, "Okay, how real is this?" And she goes, "I just had an argument with my fiance who yelled at me in a way that I would never accept anybody yelling at me as. And so he doesn't know it yet, but as soon as we get back to America or wherever she's from, they were in Switzerland. I'm ending the relationship." And I'm just thinking to myself, you can't even wait to get back home before posting this? How valuable must those likes be?
Oh, it's juicy, apparently.
Because I saw another one where a woman did that about her husband, and then her husband immediately left her. He's like, you record and you posted it online, I'm gonna leave him, and I have to find a way in order to live on my own, and well, I'm gonna start setting up my life, and we have 3 kids. I gotta make sure that my husband's still there, whatever. And obviously he's gonna see this video,
Wow.
and then immediately, I can't believe he left me right away.
Wow.
What are you talking about? Why wouldn't
Yeah.
he? So, anyways, the lack of privacy, even the younger people, they've known, even some millennials, they know, give that up, and the attention you get and the likes you get, it can get you a MeUndies deal. You never know, buddy. You never know. All right, next story.
Wait, wait, wait,
The
but what's, how that last story, how is it valuable to us for the right moves? How does this affect our trading? Okay, so tornado.
certain, well, one, it makes me the thing I was worried about the most with Midnight, the token for Cardano, was that, well, you never get past, right? With Tornado Cash gone, they
Correct.
want to stop anything that has privacy at its core. But so that went, and so Midnight becomes more available. But also Monero, I think Monero jumped like significantly on the news that I mean, Monero is still trading at what, $200 per coin or whatever,
What?
even though it's hard to get. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Um, so that's pretty interesting. And it opens up, like, it was hard to have DAOs or businesses on blockchain because I mean, who would want the database for everything that they're doing public?
People.
Like, that's the thing that made it so you can't build a business on blockchain. You can build certain components on it, but that's like bolting on AI, a chatbot on your thing. Well, now we have an AI powered business. No, you need a thing that's like, it's bleeding through every part of the organization, and then you can actually service the AI can help with the processes and optimization and performance and all that. And so we didn't want to just have a SQL database, like, you have all the core things on the side, and you're just passing things off into blockchain to do a transaction that's not even as efficient as the other systems you're using anyway. What was the point of all that? Um, anyway, so we'll see.
It seems like, the new administration, did that have anything to do with this reversal on this position?
Well, the courts upheld, even before Trump was elected, the courts had ruled that the Tornado Cash thing was unlawful. And then it was like, so I think after all the appeals or whatever, it was like confirmed this year. But the U.S. Treasury Department could have decided like what it wanted to do now. I think it's still prosecuting the creators or something like that of Tornado Cash because they were involved in illegal things or whatever. But it doesn't seem likely that they're going to want to pursue this idea of that the protocol itself, the smart contract itself, is a problem, because if you can declare a smart contract illegal or as property, um, that sets a precedent for, or it puts a stick in the spokes of innovation and progress, because then you go, okay, well, then what kind of smart contracts can we actually make as a business, and how much money can you actually risk on that, because who knows what you can actually build. So we'll see what they say, but so far it's promising that privacy is something that they actually want, at least this administration.
It feels like this administration is really strongly behind crypto.
Well, that's the next thing I want to talk about, which is the Digital Asset Summit.